Hello everybody, this is Bird Brain. We're here, we are nerdy for the birdies. So today we're doing our little show, our reaction to the Eagles on the post-game ponder, their victory over the New Orleans Saints 15-12. And there's a lot to talk about with this game, and I'm going to kind of treat it like a compliment sandwich, where I'm going to start out with a couple of good things, and then some negative, and then we're going to finish with a couple, good things. So, without further ado, let's get into this game. And I think the first point I really want to talk about is this defense. And this defense was rightly scrutinized after the Falcons game. They gave up 29 to the Packers in some explosive plays. They gave up 22 to the Falcons, which 22 in a game is not terrible, but it's 22 points where they gave up 7 in the final 2 minutes on a drive that was just simply unacceptable. And ultimately, there was questions about the run defense, where it was one of the worst in the league. There was questions about the pass rush. There was questions about pretty much every level of the defense. And I don't want to sit here and act like everything's fixed, everything's okay, we're all good, it's all sunshine and rainbows. But it's definitely a situation where the defense is trending in the right direction. Again, this was an offense, the Saints, that scored 40-plus points in back-to-back weeks. And these aren't 40-plus points where some of these are pick sixes or kickoff return touchdowns. This offense was shut down today. They were shut down. Alvin Kamara, 3.3 yards per carry. The team as a whole had 3.1 yards per carry. That's halving what you were doing in the first 2 games in run defense. Rashid Shaheed was getting all these explosive plays. He had 0 catches on 5 targets today. The only receiver that did much of anything against us was Chris Olave. And look, he's going to get his. He's a good receiver in his own right. But if you told me, right, after what happened on Monday, that this defense would turn around, go on the road to New Orleans against that explosive offense, and hold them to 12 points with 1 touchdown, getting a pick by Reed Blankenship, I would tell you I wouldn't believe you. But this is the potential, but they have to continue to maintain this. The expectation is now this is the standard they play at. If they do not play at this level, they have failed to meet the expectation. They have shown they can play like this. And I still don't think the defense has reached its final form yet. I thought the pass rush was good, but a lot of the plays these guys were making were more forcing throwaways. I'd love to see more guys finishing at the quarterback, getting more sacks, but the pressures were there. Just to begin with, Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, that was probably the best game I have seen the Georgia duo play together since being on the Eagles. Jordan Davis getting a sack. Jalen Carter was disruptive in the game. And look, I know at the end of the game there was a thing where he was, kind of taunting, picking a fight with Tyrann Mathieu and whatnot. They kind of had to break it up. I'm not a huge fan of that because, the game's over, we won, let's just go to the locker room, calm down. But Jalen Carter's an emotional dude, and I'm fine with that. He's just got to chill. But I thought he played his butt off. I thought Jordan Davis looked really good. Josh Sweat had a really good pressure on Carter that forced him to throw it away. Brandon Graham continues to shine. So the pass rushers are starting to make plays, and now they're forcing incompletions. Multiple batted passes, and this was a complaint that people had about this defense. There's so many guys on this defensive line that should be able to knock down passes. Jalen Carter had 2 passes defense. I saw Thomas Booker had 1 too. You'd love to see the defensive line forcibly causing passes defensed, forcibly, pressuring the quarterback and making plays. And this was a great start in the right direction. Second point, how about Saquon Barkley? I've said this before. I've had quote-unquote reservations about Saquon. Now, my reservations were not about him as a player, just more how impactful he'd be. And I didn't think Saquon would be, a huge impact, because I thought, the Eagles already have AJ and Goddard and Smitty, and they have all these other players, and, AJ, and Saquon would be a nice compliment, but it's there's no reason to give Saquon, 20-plus carries, or 20-plus touches. He's fine, he can hit, we don't need him to be, everything, and yet today we kind of did. He scored every single point in this game, and just as things looked bleak, he breaks off a 65-yard rushing touchdown, which is one of the longest he's had in years. I think, in fact, the last time he had a touchdown that long, it was actually against us. But, if I'm not mistaken, I might be wrong, but that's my guess. But he played very well today, and, you know, I was a little disappointed at first that he just wasn't getting carries early, but he more than made up for it. He got plays, he made up for what happened on Monday, and that's really what matters. So now to talk about the crux of, and this is kind of my big negative thing, and you can argue there's a second one that I'll bring up fairly briefly, but we gotta have a conversation about Jalen. And if you just kind of squint your eyes a little bit, you say, okay, well, Jalen played a mostly efficient game. You know, made some big plays when necessary, whatnot. But the turnovers, man, I mean, he technically has 6 in the first 3 games. Now, one of those turnovers was a bad snap that isn't really his fault, but it falls on him anyway. So, unfortunately, I kind of have to... Unfortunately, it stuck with him. But that's still 5 turnovers. And a lot of them are just unnecessary. And he had 2 more today. And the problem with his turnovers is we're not getting the upside that having as many turnovers as he has is okay. If Jalen had 10 total touchdowns right now, I think the turnovers wouldn't be a big deal. The problem is Jalen has 3 touchdown passes and a rushing touchdown to 5 turnovers that I personally put on him. That's not good enough. People complain about Josh Allen in his turnovers, but Josh Allen usually doubles up his touchdowns to touchdown to interception ratio. I say usually, he doesn't always, but for the most part, he kind of backs that up. And I'm okay with that. Like, if you're a quarterback, if you're scoring 40 plus touchdowns in a season, and you throw like 12, 13, 14, 15 plus interceptions, that's fine, because you're more than doubling it. Like, I remember a couple years ago, Matthew Stafford threw 41 touchdowns for the Rams, but he also had 17 interceptions. But you're getting the upside of the volume that Stafford puts up, that, yeah, you're going to get interceptions with him. And that's fine in its own way, but the problem is that with Jalen, I just don't get that. And at this point, he's in his 5th year, he should know better. He should know not to put the ball in harm's way. I mean, the fumble especially. I mean, that's just inexcusable. You can't hold the ball back there forever and ever and ever. If your clock is going to tell you, you got to go. And you got to be decisive. And a lot of this indecisiveness has led to some of his biggest mistakes this season. And he's got to relax on that, because he can't keep getting away with this. This is the 3rd straight game the Eagles have lost the turnover battle, and they're 2-1. And, you know, Jalen has got to fix that. And a lot of the reason why this team was losing for as long as they were was because of his turnovers. I do want to touch on the management of the game. I didn't think it was great by Nick today, but I also thought at least I understood some of the logic and reasoning a little better. At the end of the half, I kind of get why he would try to go for it. Again, gives you a chance to maybe try to sneak in a touchdown. Was it overly aggressive? Yes. But I think what I saw today was Nick declaring, I am going to be aggressive. And if he's going to be aggressive, fine. But there is a consequence if that doesn't pan out. You know, if he's going to play conservative, he needs to play conservative. If he wants to play aggressive, he wants to play aggressive. For the 4th and 3, you probably should kick that there. It's tough because, you know, Jalen gets sacked there or whatever. It just wasn't a great play design. You're in field goal range. You should feel good about that. The 4th and 11, I'm fine with the decision to kick because it's 4th and 11, so you're most likely not converting. So it's like you either got to punt it or kick it. And Jake Elliott has made 60-plus yard field goals before. I mean, I don't think I expected him to miss that badly. So, but if Nick's going to be overly aggressive, especially now with this team, he's got to realize that there are consequences, and he's got to be careful. But the last thing I really want to point out, and this is really like a big personal, you know, observation. This team fought today, and some guys had to step up, especially Fred Johnson and Tyler Steen. I mean, your right side of the O-line goes down, and these guys come in, and the O-line doesn't really miss a step. Now, Jalen took 4 sacks today. I kind of don't remember whose fault each individual one was, but I know Jalen has a tendency to hold the ball, so I'm not going to entirely blame them. They held their own today, And that's what you want to see. And it's a huge mark on Jeff Stoutland. I mean, we have to step back and realize the Eagles won this game without A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith in the fourth quarter, Lane Johnson, Mekhi Becton, and this is going to sound weird to Adam, but Britton Covey also got hurt. Darius Slay got injured. You know, these players have made impactful plays for this team this season, and all of those guys are currently injured. We'll see how injured they are come next week, but you might have to go to Tampa Bay with just Dallas Goedert, you know, the other tight ends, you know, Jahan Dotson, Paris Campbell, and Johnny Wilson as your pass catchers. Not also the running backs as well, but you know, that's a scary situation, and they're really thin at the position because of injury. So we'll see what happens, but you know, prayers to Devontae. That was a nasty hit, but this team fought, and look, that was a big way to come back. And look, last year when this team faced adversity, especially down the stretch, they began to cower and flinch, and it was so refreshing to see the team fight back and stay in a game and continue to make plays. So for that reason, we got to give them nothing but praise for that. And ultimately, it's a hard-fought, gutsy win, but this can't continue. And I feel fine about it because the things that need to be corrected can be corrected. Jalen's coachable, so hopefully he can relax on the turnovers. But to see the defense come alive and to see some guys make some plays is just amazing. Obviously, the player of the game, and I didn't really mention him too much because I really just wanted to save him for the last segment. How about Dallas Goedert? 10 catches, 170 yards, both career highs, absolutely carried the Eagles at the end. I mean, that 60-yard catch pretty much put this game away. That was an amazing play. Really just a well-schemed up play by Kellen Moore, but it was so fun to see that play happen. It was fun to see Goddard get involved and actually just have a huge role in his offense. And they're going to need him next week. So we'll see what happens down in Tampa. Anyways, this is Bird Braid. Hope we have fun being nerdy with the birdies. See you around, guys.